Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, colleagues, dear friends. Welcome to the monthly webinar of the Local Government and Municipal Authorities Constituency. Today is 20th of March. We are having this rounds in two slots, one in the morning for the Eastern Hemisphere and one in the afternoon for European time for the Western Hemisphere. I just would recommend that we give one more minute for all our participants to settle down so that then we kick off smoothly. And thank you very much for your interest and patience for a couple of more minutes. We'll get back soon. Yes, I think we have reached to a saturation of our participants. I see a lot of colleagues, old and new. So that's great pleasure to meet all of you. First of all, my name is Yunus Arikan. I'm the Director of Global Advocacy at ICLE, Local Government for Sustainability. And I'm also delivering the task of the focal point of the LGMA constituency on behalf of ICLE. This session is being recorded and then available later on webcasted in the YouTube channel. We usually prefer to go through the presentation, and time to time we have guests and colleagues who contribute, but we are aiming to finish around the 40th minute so that then we can open the floor for inputs and questions and additional points. But in case during the presentation you have any points for clarification, feel free to type in the chat box or the QA box so that we can respond if needed. We usually follow the model that we start with our background on LGMA. We go through the outcomes of the previous COP. We review what has been achieved since last webinar and the potential agenda in the upcoming. And today we will particularly also spend some time on our roadmap process. We will kick off. In that regard, I was assuming my colleagues Ursula Kasperek from Under 2 Coalition or Heloise to join us. I don't see any of them. Hopefully they will join us later on in the hour. I'm also very happy that my colleague Ingrid Coates from Cities by the River will also join us as usual to keep us updated on the by the River related agendas. So with that basic overview, let's proceed. For those who have not met with us before, LGMA in abbreviation is also, in fact, the voice of cities, towns, and regions. In practical terms, the voice of subnationals in the UN climate process. Since '95, we were one of the first constituencies following the process. We interact in the negotiation agenda. We contribute to the action agenda. We collaborate with the presidencies to make sure COP is designed in the most appropriate way and effective way. And we advance the climate agenda with our partners with the national governments who support the multi-level action, which is we call the Friends of Cities. So our engagement is not only for the end of the year at the COP, which is basically through our multi-level action and urbanization pavilion and our base camp through the Blue Zone, but we also contribute the year-round engagement, workshops and submissions, so that our contributions are regularly fed into the UNFCCC space. We have a number of channels. These monthly webinars are already scheduled throughout the year, and as soon as you register, you can receive your calendar the other dates as well. We also have our monthly webinars, especially as a compilation of our monthly progress, and this is mainly released towards the end of the month, particularly after the webinar, so that we compile all the feedback or inputs. And we also have our among the group mailing channels and WhatsApp groups as well. We all say that COP28 was remarkable in terms of its outcome. It was the most successful COP for us. In fact, it closed an era, and this era was in fact consisting of four phases. And I think before going to the next era, which is the new NDCs, the new climate plans towards 2025, we have to be really careful. What did we achieve? How did we advance so far? In basic terms, we have started this process. Yes, we were enjoying the legacy of Earth Summit, the local Agenda 21, but UNFCCC and Kyoto Protocol did not recognize us as very seriously in this era, in the first 10 years, let's say. Starting from starting from 2005, when the Kyoto Protocol was entering into force, but also our members, in the, especially US and Australia, played a huge role to ensure their nations are in the climate action despite their lack of action in their federal level. But we also said that if in Copenhagen there will be a new regime designed, this time we should prevent or avoid the third mistake to ignore us. And that was our local government climate roadmap to recognize, engage, and empower. And during these 2000s, second half of 2000, this was also the moment where we had more of our partners engaged in this process, new networks, new partnerships. Um, when we have seen the Kyoto Protocol or Copenhagen process failing, and there was this 6 years gap, we did not give up because we said that the multilateral system has to survive, and the local energy members support the efforts, and that was the reason why we even elevated our engagement in the process. We were involved in the decisions. There were some COP decisions for us, action agenda and negotiations. We have participated in the UN summits, and we have developed our own initiatives like Compact of Mayors. And this all helped us to reach to the Paris Agreement, which had the recognition of um, the all levels of governments in the UN system, in the climate system. In that regard, then a new era completely started for us. It was really, if you look at the diversity, we have so many more initiatives. You can understand that the moment we're engaged in the process, we can make it real, we can deliver more actively and more concretely. Of course, it was just the beginning. Therefore, we had to make progress. And that helped us to bring the pavilions into the process, Talano dialogues, the action agenda. And this also helped us to move forward with key outcomes. In concrete terms, we made in the Glasgow Climate Pact a new progress. So in the Paris Agreement, it was just the recognition of importance of all levels. In the Glasgow Pact, we said urgent need for multi-level action, the term multi-level action for the first time in the UNFCCC documents. And 2 years later, with the UA consensus, we had achieved that parties are urged for multi-level action in an operative paragraph in a strong language, which is giving us the power that now all what we have built so far is now bearing its fruits so that we are ready for a new era of climate action. Let's remember COP28 outcomes. We have decisions, we have so many references, we will go to that. We have a declaration, and in fact, not a declaration, a campaign, an initiative, CHAMP, and there is a troika of presidencies which we believe will help us to move from Dubai to Belém in the most smooth way. So we have also um, uh, in concrete terms, what we have is the ambitious COP. It's the most inclusive COP and it's the most multi-level COP. Ambitious in the way of the concepts that we were so much fighting for: loss and damage, transition for fossil fuels, renewable energy, um, and inclusive in that engagement of mechanisms of for stakeholders, but also introducing new concepts like non-traditional themes, food, nature, culture. These were always ignored in the process for so long, so that bringing them on board in the negotiation agenda or in the implementation agenda is giving us the power that we are making that climate action in an emergency mode, multi-level, as we have said. Champ initiative, urban climate ministerial continuously evolving, paragraph 161 and other 14 other paragraphs in adaptation and loss and damage fund, and especially the role that LGMA is playing, that the connecting the initiative from LCUS to CHAMP, from CHAMP to ministerial, but then feed into the negotiations to the outcome, that it was key that it became more and more visible the essential role that LGMA is playing in all this process. So these are the specific references in the paragraphs. This is particularly important because we all know CHAMP is an initiative, but these decisions are in the official adopted decision, so that every nation, be that they are endorsing of champ or not, they have to respect or apply these principles in their plans as well. In that regard, we are now transitioning into the new leadership. Obviously, the previous COP presidency is still responsible, but they are also now connecting with the incoming presidency. Emirates was impressive in terms of their leadership. They have been working for so many years before COP, and because of the Troika, they will continue to work even more. They will probably be one of the longest serving presidencies as such. We also have been engaged with their advisory board. Mayor of Makati City was there. We had a fantastic team, Asif Shah as the subnational relay, and we're continuing to enjoy with him his support. And Razan, obviously, the high-level champion, was instrumental for us. This was in addition to leadership of the president, who was instrumental in bringing Champ initiative to life with Bloomberg. We have a new leadership. Obviously, Azerbaijan is has different priorities and conditions. One biggest difference is that they are just started to prepare a couple of months ago. They were announced as the host in Dubai, so they had a very shortened time period for preparations. But surprisingly, they have announced their leadership. They have announced their domestic team, although they have made some initial road map accidents that there was an all-male delegation, then it has improved, that there were females introduced to the concept, and in particular, we're very happy to see both the high-level climate action and the youth climate champion is represented by female leaders, and in particular, the the high-level action champion Snigar Arpadara is an important character because she's a former, or she's still an independent member of the Majlis of Azerbaijan, so that the role of the legislative bodies will also become very key in this process. And in between, there will be ministerial meetings, Copenhagen, Berlin, and pre-COP and Bonn UNFCC. So we will continuously to engage with them. We have a very busy calendar. Every year we are suffering that. Yes, we say that this is the best, but being successful brings its own challenges. That there are new agenda items for us. This year is particularly challenging because the three Rio conventions, biodiversity, nature, and desertification, they have their own COPs in less than 6 weeks, that one after another. We had already completed the UN Environment Assembly, and we will also join the UN Summit of the Future. So, in addition to the traditional agendas of climate negotiations, these will come on board. And in particular, we will also be continuing to engage with the G7 process under Italian leadership, as well as G20 with Brazilian leadership as well. Um, uh, in a nutshell, that's an overview. What has happened since February? We will touch upon what we have achieved in UNAR 6. I'm very happy our colleagues from UN Habitat, Jessica, will be joining us in the morning. Leah was with us, so we will give the floor to them shortly. Because during the summit, we also had released a brief by UN Habitat, and we contributed actively in that. There was Buildings and Climate Forum. Again, we had colleagues from UNEVA contributing to this as well. And we have a stock take submission, just was submitted this morning, actually. What to expect in the next couple of weeks or days? Tomorrow, there is this first Copenhagen Ministerial of the Year. There, we will have Deputy Mayor of Aalborg representing our constituency. The host countries have always been generous enough to reserve one seat for every constituency, and we do our best that it is represented by our leaders that are aware of the process. I am very happy to see among our participants of this call today, Alison Gilliland, who represented our constituency last year in Copenhagen on behalf of Committee of the Regions and Dublin Council. This year, we will have Deputy Mayor of Aalborg. Aalborg is an important city because, first of all, Denmark is endorser of Champ. But more important, that Denmark has an initiative 2020 with C40. They are helping all municipalities of Denmark to reach their 2030 goals, and Aalborg is one of them. And finally, Aalborg will be hosting the 10th European Sustainable Cities and Towns conference in October. This will be the first time where the cities and regions of Europe will meet with the European leadership that will be elected in the elections in June. So that will be an important opportunity. So having the deputy mayor of Aalborg in the Copenhagen dialogue is an extreme opportunity for us to make these bridges among these processes. We will touch upon the submissions in the next couple of minutes. There will be Daring Cities process. It's overlapping with the UN climate talks in Bonn. In April, there will be the Latin America Forum. This is particularly important for us to interact or improve our dialogue with the Brazilian presidency. And we will have IPCC scoping meeting for the special report on climate change. April 22nd is always important, and for the Earth Day, and G7 climate minister will take place in Italy. Just to recap, and I would like to invite now Jessica, where we had in the UN and sixth UN Assembly, the third regions and cities summits. This was really the first moment after COP and making the again urbanization and environment agendas coming together. It was a remarkable partnership of various actors. The champ was also announced that there has new endorsers. We reached the 72, and the technical brief of the UN Habitat has displayed that, in fact, there are now much more evidence about how the urban component of these endorsing countries have been advanced or not advanced yet, which is opening the doors for us to improve the process further. Jessica, shall I give the floor to you now so that you can intervene? You can also touch upon, just before Jessica, again in Nairobi was remarkable for us because we had for the first time meetings of the endorsing partners, endorsing governments of CHAMP. Obviously, there may not be the chance that every endorsing community, endorsing national government could send their respective staff to Nairobi, but we had achieved a good combination of the capital representative from capitals, the permanent representatives. So the countries, Italy, Germany, Canada, Bangladesh, uh, Rwanda were all actively involved in this discussion, as well as Quebec, both from Canada and LGMA, and the UNEP Secretariat. So this was giving us the chance that we can stay connected to our partners and the national governments and hear their preparations, so that this will guide us further into the process. And the Global Buildings Forum concluded with a ministerial declaration, but also local leaders' declaration. Maybe Jessica, you can just cover all this together. Now, really, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Eunice. Hopefully you can hear me. Having a little bit of data issues today, but I'd actually like to highlight Marie, my colleague, who was instrumental in both of these events. So if we could bring her to the stage to cover these points, that would be great. Sure. And while that's happening, just really want to highlight, you mentioned remarkable partnerships. A big thank you to yourself, Eunice, and also the team from ICLE, who was a huge part of that technical brief that you mentioned. So I'll hand over to Marie to give us some more details on that.
Hello, everyone. I'll try to turn on my camera, but my connection is a bit hectic, so I'll say hello and then turn it off again. I wanted to, first of all, thank you, Eunice, and stress how important and interesting have been the events this past month. Mostly we were highlighting the importance of multi-level climate action, and UNEA 6 was very, very important and very interesting in this regard. It took place at the end of February in Nairobi, and we had the Cities and Climate Summit, but also the informal champ meeting, and of course, a side event about multi-level action and urbanization. We were very excited to show the technical brief on NDCs that I have also shared with you in the chat. And in that technical brief, we did an assessment of the urban content of the NDCs per country. And it's very interesting in the framework of the revision of NDCs that will happen at COP30. And just to let you know that we will also assess and do an update of this report in May, and it will be published. So yeah, just a brief sum up of what happened at UNEA 6. And I also wanted to showcase how important cities and local governments are in the fight against climate change. And it's also something that we stressed at the Paris Buildings Forum on Buildings Decarbonization. Like Yunus said, it was an amazing opportunity for synergies. The delegation highlighted how impressive were the level and amount of local leaders and the government representatives. We actually hosted a local leaders roundtable, and we published an outcome statement gathering calls from about 20 local leaders to scale up policies and initiatives. And it also informed the global Déclaration de Chaillot of the event. So yeah, really encourage you to see all of this if you're interested. I can assure you it was very fulfilling. And I wanted to mention a bit parts on the IPCC, but back to you, Yunus. I don't know if I should talk about this now.
Yunus, you're actually on mute.
Yeah. Thank you, Marie, for this overview. I think it was important to make this connection between Nairobi to Paris and different actors, and the collaboration with the UN entities and our constituency was really essential, and that is the proof of our success, especially also in collaboration with the national governments like France as the host of this process, but also, as we said, in the dialogue with the parties. A couple of points. The outcome of the summit of the cities and regions was also, because it was a unique event of the UN Environmental Assembly, it was a special event. The outcome was also conveyed by the Quezon mayor to the plenary of the UN Environment Assembly. And throughout the UN Environment Assembly, we also had additional opportunities for interactions, including our side event as constituency. So, and of course, this is the places where we have to demonstrate what we achieve in different fora, so that the representatives in Nairobi are also aware and how we can move forward with their contributions into this process. I am very happy that we are now joined by my colleague Ursula from Under Two Coalition, because she was volunteering to share our vision for our roadmap for the COP29 position. Do I see Ula in the participants?
Yes, hi everybody. I'm
Excellent.
sorry.
No
I was
worries.
just being promoted to a panelist here, so that's why I
Excellent. Excellent.
hi everyone.
So,
And
Ula, I was thinking we can start with our, let's say, strategic priorities and the existing working groups, because then I think it will be better when you introduce our vision. There is a strong linkage between those processes, if you allow me. So let's remember, when we started the year, we said that for sure we will invest in our achievements. The paragraph 161 and many others, but paragraph 161 particularly because it says multi-level action is urged by parties, and CHAMP is an excellent initiative. So we will have to work together, because there are some parties who do not endorse CHAMP, but they can still implement the global stocktake decision on multi-level action. We will work on town hall COPs. We will formulate what it means, and building on our experience from local stocktakes, and we will continue with the submissions and workshops of the UNFCCC. In that regard, we say now that we are so much references to the agenda in the UNFCCC, we have to be more expertise. We have to improve our expertise. So we have listed 15 working groups. Obviously, not all of them have been fully now assigned to one of our partners, but it's giving us the notion that we have to be ready, because the colleagues who are working in the space should guide our constituencies contributions to the parties, the discussions and processes, and that we enrich our discussions through this process. One thing that was different than what we presented is there was a discussion about whether multi-level action and CHAMP should be separate groups. There is a tendency that we should think about this as one group, and CHAMP should be subgroup. This is particularly also related to the process, the fact that COP28 presidents and Bloomberg philanthropists are still exploring what is the best modality to run this process. So we will go hand in hand, but we have other topics and other themes. Therefore, I will now give the floor to Ula to help us how we are prepared. The floor is yours, Ula.
thanks everyone, and really nice to chat with you today. So you all may remember last year we've done this extremely helpful exercise of creating the LGMA joint position. And certainly from our side, it has been really good to have a common song sheet and really speak with one voice as a constituency. What it also helped us to do is realize how strong we are when we are working together. So this year we would like to really join up and create a very strong LGMA joint position. And I will talk you through how we are planning to do it so that we can all prepare ourselves, because we are all having limited capacities. So we are hoping that in March, so now, we are going to select we will look at having a committee that will be the drafting committee. So if any of you would be interested in being in the drafting committee, please do let us know. Please do let Yunus know, and we can set it up. What it will involve, and I just really want to be clear on the responsibilities on the drafting committee. We will be driving through this committee the structure of those joint messages, making decision, really holding a pen on drafting the messages, which will then subsequently be given to the constituency for the review and revision. And then the drafting committee will be meeting up to review and revise the feedback. So there is some commitment required from the people who volunteer to be in the drafting committee. So once we have selected the drafting committee, we will be looking for inputs from the LGMA working groups. As Yunus mentioned, we have very strong expertise across constituency, so we are hoping that the working groups will be able to drive the messaging and what we are really actually asking for across the structure agreed by the drafting committee, and maybe flag that we've missed something, and that's okay too, because we are all working in different spaces. So we are hoping that by the end of by the April we'll get the contributions, and then in May we'll open up the first sort of rough draft for consultation with the community. You will be able to see where we are headed and comment on that. This is still working on a draft. So by the end of May, we'll be hopefully closing off this consultation, such that beginning of June, we can complete this draft. And those will be the draft messages that then will be opened up to the wider constituency for comment. And we can launch this draft for consultation in events in June. I know Weekly World Congress is happening. There are a few other events happening in June, so that's a good point. Moving on to the June, August time, this is when we get the comments, collate the inputs, and then hopefully we'll have everything ready by September when we will open it up to endorsements. I think I covered everything. Just a few points at the below of the slide is we think that the calls to action will focus on multi-level governance for 2025 NDCs. The finance is the NCQG year, so of course that's the main negotiation topic: adaptation, loss and damage, as well as the interlinkages between nature, climate, SDGs, and climate justice. But of course, we will, through the drafting, identify whether we perhaps missed something. So that's all of me, from me. Yunus, thanks very much.
Thank you, Ula, for your summary of our idea on how to move forward. We will look forward to contributions from all the partners. This is a collective effort, as you have mentioned. When we released on the first day of COP, this was the case in Glasgow, in Sharm el Sheikh, and in Dubai. We really benefited a lot that it gives us the opportunity to shape the debate. And even more importantly, having this as early as possible also gives us the chance that our leaders can be better prepared. And especially in the year where we are already in the NDC's drafting process, they can reflect this in their dialogue with the national government. So there's definitely always room for improvement, but it's better that we make it early as possible available, so that this is a work in progress, is a living document, and the final conclusion is really something that is reflecting all our inputs. One particular point, of course, in the finance, we will continue to discuss, but the Article 6.8, which is important for non-market approaches, will also be an important agenda. I'm just checking if there are. Heloise is also on the line from Regions 4, another member of the drafting committee last year, and we will continue to have her leadership and engagement. Shelley is asking if have to be local authorities, or could they be partner city organizations? Well, we are much more flexible. We are not that strict, and as Heloise also responded, we hope it will be a representative of the networks. And I'm sure, Shelley, we can find good opportunities so that there is at least some kind of an institutional support to that. But we will always welcome voluntary contributions as well. So that should not be that much problem. But we can also take it case by case. I don't know whether Ula, you'd like to respond or provide additional responses on that. Um, British share. Chair of ICLE US from Travis Country. We are so happy to have you joining us, Chair, and we had always enjoyed your leadership. That I mean, being a leader in the space, having your positive feedback is really encouraging for all of us. So we look forward to continuing with you. Uh, so one maybe going back since I have seen Commissioner Share, this process is important because this year we have discussed this in the morning as well. It's a very particular year that half of the world will be going to elections. Some of them have already completed their elections, but the remainings are coming on the way. So this is also an opportunity for us to put, especially for our political leaders, to put the climate agenda in an inclusive way back to the agenda of their communities and their constituencies. So that's why I think it's important that we make sure that the agreements are discussed at the national and local level, and to make sure that those new elected leaders will not backtrack or backlash, but rather advance and iterate it further with their new leadership. And that's the reason why we, as multi-level action, have been asking this, because we will make sure that this is not a journey that should be weakened, but just on the contrary, it will be strengthened. And we have demonstrated that the more nations bring local and governments, the better they can be more ambitious and they can deliver results. One important agenda from our side, ICLE, is the daring cities. This has been a journey since 2010, 2020, especially on mobilizing our leaderships for tackling climate emergency. When this debate was not even on the table, we have brought the discussion about the climate emergency. It's not anymore a typical climate action. We have to make it much more inclusive and holistic. This was the period when a lot of cities and councils were already adopting their climate emergency declarations. And over these years, through daring cities, we have advanced a lot. We have helped our members, our partners, to make sure that this is a collective way we can advance our information on climate emergency, but also improve, act, and lead on that. So this year we are starting with our webinars next week in April to recap what has been achieved and what will come towards the year. In-person dialogues will be in Bonn during the UN climate negotiations, SP60, on the first week and the first 3 days, 3 to 5 of June. This will be an opportunity for us to uh, get together and have some strategic discussions with the UNFCCC negotiators as well, and keep each other updated on how are we advancing on CHAMP or other elements. We will have virtual sessions in August and September, especially with the town hall COPs idea, how to materialize this. And obviously, the Daring Cities will always be a partner to the multi-level action and urbanization pavilion. Next weeks will also be an exciting moment where the IPCC will convene the scoping meeting for the special important climate change and cities. This is one of the very excellent examples that advocacy is such a long journey. The first decision to convene such a special report during the seventh assessment report was adopted in 2016. So we were instrumental because that was a proposal from South African government. At that time, our dear friend Deborah Roberts, on behalf of eThekwini municipality, she was championing this. And of course, she was part of the LGMA, and we have been working with her so much. So we supported this proposal of South Africa, and it was not easy. There were not immediate positive response. There was back and forth, long days in Nairobi. The city's IPCC was an initiative of the LGMA at that time, and the first achievement we had was that the IPCC negotiators, the scientists, and the officials said that we are not ready for a special report. Therefore, let's use the next couple of years so that we can be better prepared for a special report. And that was the logic. We also made sure that there's in between a process. We had convened the Edmonton conference, and this resulted IBCC to adopt its cities and climate research agenda. So it's already existing. And now IPCC scientists can come and comment on how are we advancing on that, what are the gaps, and how can we move forward. This is important because the discussion is that this will be the moment where the new NDCs will be, so the report will be available 2027. So this is the moment where the new NDCs will already be in force. So if we can make sure the UN, the national governments are also aware this scientific support is coming, they can be more encouraged to be more actively engaging their local and regional governments because we already have more concrete decisions. This meeting is part of an official negotiations of the IPCC. So they have called for experts to be nominated by nations plus observers like ICTA and C40. So this process has already been completed last year. We are very happy that the list was announced at the IPCC 60th Assembly in January in Istanbul. This process will be now led by 120 or so scientists and practitioners. The good news is that through the nominations from ICTA, C40, and national government, we have around 20 plus practitioners, like representatives from experts from city of Paris, Turku, Bogota, Buenos Aires, Norway, as well as urbanists like our dear friends Aro, Debra, as well as CET, and our representatives like Leah from UN Habitat, Purya from ICLE. So this shows that we have a serious capacity to contribute in the shaping of this meeting, which will be putting the backbone of this report. And then the IPCC will call for additional contributions from nations and the observers in terms of nominations for lead authors, contributing authors. So it will be a journey, so that this meeting of scoping committee is not the end itself, it is just a kickoff. And it's important that we are there at the beginning and we are there later on to put flesh on the bones through engagement of our leaders, especially our members, in the drafting of this report. And it will be also important. We are having more and more interaction between scientific community and local leadership. We have Mayor of Yokohama, we have Mayor of Wuppertal, who is a former scientist. So we will check whether they will be involved. We have, for the first time ever, an IPCC scientist to become a president of her country. Claudia Sheinbaum from Mexico City is in an election campaign, which will be closed in June. So if she's elected, the world will have finally a scientist leading a country. So that these are exciting moments, and a scientist from urbanists is leading a country. This is really a fantastic opportunity. I just would like to give the floor to Mari, because on behalf of Leah, who is a member of the scoping committee from UN Habitat, probably she has some more updates. So Mari, the floor is yours. Meanwhile, I received questions from the chat box. Jason Michnik is saying, can we volunteer for the drafting committee? At the moment, the process is in the hands of IPCC. I think for the scoping committee, no. But after the scoping committee meeting is over, we have to listen and how it will evolve. And Eva, we can nominate not for scoping, but to lead authors, which will be specific chapters who will draft this. IPCC will provide more guidance, and therefore we have to inform our constituents in advance so that those who can contribute should already start preparations as well. So Mary, let's hear from you for additional points.
Yes, hi again. Thank you, Yunus. I wanted to start that we are very excited on UN Habitat's part for the nomination of Leah for the IPCC special reporting. I think it's a very unique opportunity to stress the role of cities and local governments in this report. And it's very, very important also since we noted that there's a very high number of experts coming from academia in those experts nominated. Therefore, it's even more important to stress and voice really the concerns of local governments in this special report. I wanted also to note that it enters in a wider scope also of promoting multi-level action, because this process will actually inform UN Habitat biannual World Urban Forum in Cairo in November, also COP29, sorry, and also the Innovate for Cities conference, which will happen in September and will really strengthen and engage community of academia, but also business, civil society, and local and regional government. So We're really looking forward to coordinate this approach with other experts who have been nominated in C40 and ECLAY, and we're very excited for this to go forward. Thank you, Eunice.
Thank you, Marie. Definitely exciting moments, and this will really be opening us a lot of doors wide open. Submissions, as we said, the one of the latest one was submitted this morning. Actually, it was the request of the stocktake decision experience of during the first phase of the Paris Agreement stocktake. We compiled a submission based on what we have submitted so far and how we engage, especially through the local stocktakes, our assessment of the submission from parties to the GST outputs, as well as how nations have been engaging local energy governments outside the UNFCCC process. And in concrete terms, we are suggesting that this practice, especially the town hall COPs, should continue to be providing a good input to the process. We also would like to see that this inclusive approach should continue, and paragraph 161 and CHAMP is a good example of that. And more importantly, we also know the future of the multilateralism is being rediscussed or redesigned through the Summit of the Future, especially with COP28 outcomes. Now that climate action is much more expanding its borders, we also have to make sure that this is supporting the new inclusive multilateralism in the UN system, because the global goals and local action can only succeed if we have a global solidarity and global framework. So that were our basic responses. But what I would like to alert you is that there is an important new agenda that came in the last couple of weeks. The Sharm el-Sheikh Implementation Work Program, it's one of the new legacy of COP27, has now decided to focus on cities, buildings and urban environment in 2024 cycle. This is an important body because the outcome of this body provides the inputs to the COP decision. And if you look at the GST decision, the famous paragraph 28, where this transition from fossil fuels, triple energy, triple renewable energy, double down energy efficiency, roadmap emissions, road emissions, all these paragraphs had their building blocks coming from this work program. So it's a brilliant opportunity to have this body, which is the negotiators nominated by the parties, to discuss this. We had a similar experience in the past with the UN Standing Committee on Finance, which was for focusing on cities. This process is just starting off. They will announce when and where these two meetings will be held before SP60 and COP29, and therefore they would ask for submissions by 31st of March and 31st of July. So we will have to get together our minds and about how can we support this process and how can we actively engage. And of course, we have to work on our submissions so that we should also make sure our voices are heard along these lines. But we'll get back to this again. We know it's deadline is coming short, but I think we can still handle it. There are several other deadlines coming up. It's also the case that we may not be responding all the deadlines because of our capacity and resources, but it is important that we follow this. In the morning, we discussed the Just Transition Pathways Dialogue. We are discussing how we can contribute to the global goal on adaptation. We will hopefully submit a view on Article 6.8, non-market approaches, sustainable urbanization as a non-market approach, and so many others to come up on the way. And that's the reason it's very important our working groups really bring their intelligence and inspiration to this process so that we have solid information and solid proposals into this submissions. I think we are more or less covered our climate agenda, and I'm very happy that my colleague Ingrid is now with us to share her updates from the biodiversity process. Ingrid, I hope you are able to share your screen. Ingrid, are you in the call? Katsa,
Yeah,
do you see her?
I just promoted her to panelist.
Excellent.
So 1 second.
I stopped sharing.
Yeah, you need to stop sharing so that I
Yes,
can
I
share.
should stop sharing and stop talking.
Okay. All right, let me just get it up and I hope everybody can see it. And right. So very quickly, I don't want to keep too much of your time. A new area where we have, as a major group, started making inroads is in the Convention of Migratory Species.
Sorry,
This is-
Ingrid, we can't see your screen yet. So if you're sharing it.
Okay, let me just, okay, I think I have to share it again.
Yeah. Perfect.
Thank you for,
No worries.
right. Is that
Yeah.
working now? Okay.
Yes, here we go. Perfect.
Okay, that's, now I need to just get a big screen. Okay, cool. So one of the areas where we in the major group have started making an inroad is in as far as migratory species is concerned. Traditionally, this has not been somewhere where local governments and sub-regional governments have played a role at all. It's a very technical and old convention, but ICLEI was invited to participate in the COP that was held in February this year in Samarkand, Uzbekistan. And at that COP, there were several very important reports that were released. Obviously, one on the state of migratory species, and the picture's not looking good. And then there was one on climate change and migratory species, which is really very scary and dismal. And it's very clear from both of these reports that cities, particularly those cities and territories that are located along migratory routes of wild species, can play a very important role in strengthening and supporting ecological corridors. At the COP, they launched the Global Partnership on Ecological Connectivity, and ICLEI was invited as representing our major group. The whole idea of this is to focus on ecological connectivity and then through 3 or 4 areas of work, one obviously being around data collection, one on policy and legal instruments, a strong focus on implementation, and then on awareness raising and outreach. Also important is for the first time at this convention, there was a resolution on synergies and partnerships, which included reference to parties promoting the active engagement of their subnational governments and particularly building and strengthening their capacity to support them in protecting migratory species and their habitats. ICLEI had a side event, and at the side event, we launched a new awareness raising program, which we call Journeys of Life, to encourage cities along migratory routes to share best practices and just generally to raise awareness. And we're hoping that this is going to become part of the new global partnership. The other big news is that we are also starting to plan for the next biodiversity COP taking place at the end of this year. It's going to be taking place in the city of Cali in Colombia. And we have submitted an expression of interest to the Secretariat to have the 8th summit. This is the 14th year in which we're going to have these summits, so it's really significant. And we've started planning together with our regional offices, and we're starting to engage our partners, other partners within the LGMA network, as well as with the government of Colombia for this really important event. Eunice talked about the whole roadmap leading up to Belém. This is one of the events along that roadmap. Because we all know that next year at the climate COP, there's going to be a huge emphasis on nature. And the big sort of objective of this particular COP is going to be on implementation, looking at progress over the past 2 years, what's lying ahead, really to translate the GBF and its targets into national action and trickle that down to the lower levels of government, but also to bolster the means of implementation. And I think a really exciting sort of focus for this is that the government of Colombia has declared it as being the place or the COP where they want to make peace with nature. So this is very significant because it responds to the call from the UN Secretary General about we're at war with nature, we need to make peace with nature. So a very significant COP also. And then just the last point, as part of our mobilization of our constituency towards the COP, we are continuing with our webinar series, which is titled Agreement to Action. And we have a webinar coming up next week. There is a link. I will put the link actually in the chat. And essentially what that does is to look at the role of cities and regions in achieving both global biodiversity and climate goals. And we've got a great line of speakers. We're working very closely also with the climate champions from COP28 to pick up on that theme of linkages between global biodiversity and climate targets. So I think I will stop at that, and hopefully there's still some time for questions to you, Eunice.
Thank you. Thank you, Ingrid. Of course, first of all, congratulations on the achievements on behalf of our constituency. And as you mentioned, we are seeing more and more convergence, especially climate agenda expanding to nature and other areas. We have also a working group on that, and we will look forward to your leadership and contributions with your colleagues. And it's also the reality that these two processes have a lot of things that they can share and learn from each other. We just discussed Colombian Minister of Environment, former Environment Secretary of Bogota. She's very active in the climate debate. Obviously, she was active in Nairobi and biodiversity, and she will be leading this in so biodiversity COPs are 2 years. So practically, she will be in charge of the driver's seat until the end of 2025 or 6, where
26.
Brazil now Brazil is the G20, but because of Troika, they're actively involved, and their presidency will also finish in 2026. So it's an imperative for all of us to make sure that we have a good dialogue. And IUCN President, high-level champion Razan is a very, very important leader that really knows the urban agenda very well. So let's make sure we have a lot of ingredients to come up with a good more synergies that gives us more empowerment to address these issues more effectively. So we have still some more minutes. I see some of the chat box. Jessica, I see your hand, or was it a mistake? Or
Yes, I just wanted to come in very quickly on a point that is sad, but it raises an opportunity. The sad thing is that unfortunately there is a persistent feeling that NDCs is a very national thing. It's, unfortunate with the name being nationally determined contributions. So this presents like a real barrier and challenge for us with that NDC review and revision. So all of the work that's been described here is fantastic, and ICLEI are particularly good at outreach to key people and advocacy. And so just wanted to highlight some work that we're doing around a very timely but needed campaign around a very simple notion that cities are key to achieving the Paris Agreement goals. So just wanted to highlight that work will be happening over the next 12 months, and it's very critical that this happens now. Thank you, Eunice.
Thank you, Jessica. Obviously, I mean, the whole UN is a nationally driven process, not just the NDCs. And we have seen this SDGs, voluntary national reviews. There are limits, and there are certain things that we have to abide by. So I think the question here is that how we can make effectively that, because a national process should not exclude what's happening at the local and subnational level. That's our logic. And I don't think any of the local and subnational are aiming to replace to the UN yet, at least. And therefore, we have to be very careful on how we frame this. And obviously, this year, because of the World Urban Forum in Cairo, there will also be more opportunities for us to position urbanization, cities into the climate, nature, SDGs, and the whole inclusive multilateralism. Great. I see a contribution from Michelle. She was asking, Michelle from Quebec, our longtime friend, thanks for joining us. She was asking about the submissions. Maybe meanwhile, I bring back my presentation just in case we can show it again. Michelle, you were asking where we can find the submissions. I assume you're asking if the LGMA submission that you're asking, it is in the UNFCCC, it is in our LGMA website. Let me show you one archive slide. So, for example, from COP28 and other years, we have the interventions available, as well as submissions in specific agenda items. But if you want to see all submissions from all parties, you have to go to the UNFCCC portal, and I must confess, it is it's not easy. So happy to help if you need any additional recommendation, but we try to make it as user friendly as possible. And if there's any specific submission you're looking for, I'm more than happy to help you back as well. So yeah, that was one point. Is there any other colleague who wish to? Yeah, Eva, I think I responded. You were asking for a nomination to lead on chapters drafting. This will be a process after the meeting in Riga. So the IPCC will announce what is the mechanism for nominating lead and contributing authors. They have certain procedures and criteria. Selection, the committee, IPCC committees will work on that. So let's wait for their announcements. But we're sure we will make it widely shared so that we can introduce as much as practitioners and urbanists into this process. Great. Chat box, do we have anything more? Ivana shared the links to the registered webinars, webinars. I think we are more or less covered. I see at the beginning of this discussion, we have a colleague, Mr. Faisal, also saying hi from Bangladesh. Thank you joining us, Mr. Faisal. And if there are no additional points to be raised, I think we can announce that we can come to a conclusion. In concrete terms, we will expect your contributions to the drafting committee. We will encourage you to subscribe to the working groups. My colleague Matteo already have shared with you your inputs to the LGMA bulletin, which is released every month, and the next edition will be next week. So these are additional channels for us. Tomorrow, Deputy Mayor of Aalborg is meeting with COP28 President Sultan Jaber, the new COP29 President designate, Mr. Babayev, and the COP29 high-level champion Nigar Arpadaray. So she will be joined with other constituencies, and this is the first interaction with the new COP29 leadership for all of us. We look forward to her feedbacks or impressions so that we can build it further. Jessica also shared the WOOF application of the World Urban Forum, the 12th one, taking place in Cairo. One of the key countries for us. They were instrumental in COP27, in the announcement of the Surge initiative, that we designed it as the building block of the CHAMP, as well as the UN Habitat Resolution on Climate Change. And it's really good to see Egypt continuing to be actively combining urban and climate agenda. So in November, we will be in Cairo at the beginning of November, and then 3 days later, some of us or some of our members will be then going to Baku. So it will be, as I said, a pretty challenging 6 weeks after the September. So good luck to all of us. Stay safe. Thanks for all your contributions. I think we are closing. Now, there's 2 inputs in the chat box. Laurie Kogan, finding the studying on migrant inspiration is very exciting. Please reach out to my colleague Ingrid, Laurie Kogan, or we can help you to connect so that you are contributing to this process. Thanks a lot, and have a nice day and have a nice week. Bye-bye.